Victorian literature is not merely a collection of stories. It is a mirror reflecting society, morality, ambition, love, class conflict, and human struggle. Today, we will journey through 4 remarkable Victorian novels: Vanity Fair, Henry Esmond, Middlemarch, and The Return of the Native. These novels present different dimensions of Victorian life: social ambition, historical identity, provincial society, and the conflict between human desire and fate. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand the themes, characters, narrative style, symbolism, and literary significance of these masterpieces. Published in 1848, Vanity Fair was written by William Makepeace Thackeray. Its subtitle is extremely important: A Novel Without a Hero. Through this subtitle, Thackeray challenges the traditional idea of heroic fiction. The novel exposes a corrupt society driven by greed, ambition, hypocrisy, and social climbing. The central character, Becky Sharp, is one of the most fascinating female characters in English literature. Born poor but highly intelligent, Becky uses wit, beauty, and manipulation to rise socially. In contrast, Amelia Sedley represents innocence, emotional devotion, and traditional femininity. The novel is set during and after the Napoleonic Wars, but history remains in the background while society becomes the real battlefield. Thackeray satirizes aristocracy, materialism, marriage market, and moral pretensions. The title, Vanity Fair itself, comes from John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. It symbolizes a worldly society obsessed with vanity and superficial success. One remarkable aspect of the novel is the intrusive narrator. Thackeray constantly comments on characters and society directly, almost like a puppeteer controlling human drama. The novel ultimately suggests that society itself is morally hollow. Unlike Vanity Fair, Henry Esmond is a historical novel. Published in 1852, the novel is set during the reign of Queen Anne in the early 18th century. The protagonist, Henry Esmond, narrates his own life story. This autobiographical style gives emotional depth and psychological realism to the narrative. The novel explores identity, loyalty, love, and historical change. Henry struggles with questions of belonging and legitimacy because he grows up uncertain about his social position. Thackeray carefully recreates 18th century England with remarkable historical detail. Political conflicts, aristocratic culture, and war become central parts of the narrative. However, beneath the historical setting lies a deeply personal story of emotional sacrifice. The language of the novel intentionally imitates 18th century prose style, showing Thackeray's artistic experimentation. One important theme is the contrast between public history and private emotion. While kings and political events dominate historical records, individual suffering remains hidden. Through Henry's experiences, Thackeray humanizes history. Published between 1871 and 1872, Middlemarch is considered one of the greatest English novels ever written. George Eliot, whose real name was Mary Ann Evans, created a deeply intellectual and realistic portrait of provincial life. The subtitle of the novel is A Study of Provincial Life. The novel focuses on multiple interconnected characters and storylines. At the center stands Dorothea Brooke, an idealistic young woman searching for meaning and purpose. She marries the scholar Casaubon, hoping for intellectual fulfillment, but the marriage becomes emotionally disappointing. Another major character is Dr. Lydgate, an ambitious doctor who dreams of scientific reform but becomes trapped by social and financial pressures. The greatness of Middlemarch lies in its psychological realism. George Eliot understands human complexity with extraordinary sensitivity. The novel examines marriage, ambition, gender roles, politics, religion, and social reform. Unlike romantic fiction, Eliot presents ordinary life as profoundly meaningful. She suggests that small human actions shape society more than heroic achievements. The narrative voice is philosophical and analytical. Eliot frequently pauses the story to reflect upon human nature and morality. The novel also reflects Victorian intellectual concerns such as science, reform, and modernization. Ultimately, Middlemarch celebrates compassion and moral understanding. Published in 1878, The Return of the Native is one of Thomas Hardy's most powerful tragic novels. The novel is set on Egdon Heath, a wild and mysterious landscape that almost becomes a character itself. Hardy uses nature symbolically. Egdon Heath represents permanence, fate, and indifferent nature. The story revolves around Eustacia Vi, a passionate woman who dreams of escaping the heath and finding a more exciting life. Clym Yeobright returns from Paris, hoping to live a meaningful rural life. However, their desires conflict tragically. Hardy's universe is deeply pessimistic. Human beings struggle against society, destiny, and nature. The novel reflects Hardy's concept of tragic inevitability. Unlike Victorian optimism, Hardy presents life as uncertain and often cruel. The atmosphere of the novel is dark, poetic, and symbolic. Hardy's descriptions of nature are lyrical and cinematic. One major theme is the conflict between human aspiration and environmental reality. Eustacia dreams of freedom, but the heath traps her emotionally and symbolically. The novel ends tragically, reinforcing Hardy's tragic vision of existence. Although these four novels belong to the Victorian age, each novelist presents a unique vision of life. Thackeray uses satire to expose social hypocrisy in Vanity Fair. In Henry Esmond, he blends history with emotional realism. George Eliot's Middlemarch explores psychological depth and moral complexity. Thomas Hardy's The Return of the Native presents tragic conflict between human desire and fate. Together, these novels reveal the richness and diversity of Victorian fiction. Victorian novels continue to remain relevant because human emotions remain unchanged. Ambition, love, disappointment, morality, social pressure, and the search for meaning. These experiences connect readers across centuries. Whether it is Becky Sharp's ambition, Dorothea's idealism, Henry Esmond's emotional conflict, or Eustacia's tragic longing, each character reflects the complexity of human life. And that is why Victorian literature still speaks to modern readers. Which Victorian character do you sympathize with the most? Becky Sharp, Dorothea Brooke, Henry Esmond, or Eustacia Vi?